Do you ever feel that modern science fiction fails to deliver? Fails to give the same sense of wonder and excitement that made you fall in love with this genre in the first place? Today I'm going to take an honest look at this feeling of mine that you might share and try to understand what are the possible reasons behind this. Is there substance or is it just an illusion? I'm going to give you 4 possible reasons, ranging from the most optimistic to the most depressing. The most optimistic explanation is survivorship bias. Most of us can agree that in today's science fiction there are still gems in the rough. It's just really difficult to find, and often they don't make it to the top of the charts and get awards and so on. So one way to explain this apparent decline of science fiction is that it had always been like this. It was always a lot of dross and just a few masterpieces in between. So when we read science fiction today, we only get to read the masterpieces because everything else is forgotten. The same, maybe, will be true for science fiction readers 20 years from now. They will look back at today, read the good stuff that we have, and think, oh man, science fiction has really declined lately. Second explanation is not as rosy. It says that maybe something has changed, and maybe it's the science fiction authors. I don't have statistics on this, but sometimes it seems that of old science fiction authors, half of them had PhDs and were actual scientists. While now, maybe there's a higher proportion of people who just want to write stories, setting science aside. Maybe it's the effect of commercialization of fiction and authors trying to just write something that sells and not something that is necessarily deep and insightful. I have a separate video on that. And maybe modern science fiction authors are just too preoccupied with modern social issues. And so science, apart from social science, takes a back seat. Good storytelling takes a back seat. Everything takes a back seat as long as we weave in some thinly veiled social metaphor into our science fiction book. You can see that this one irritates me a little bit, but yeah, I don't like when people do that. And for the record, this isn't about modern science fiction specifically. For example, the reason for why Heinlein is my least favorite of the science fiction classics is that half of his books read like an overblown essay for why everybody should have a threesome. And I don't really need this in my life. Still, the second explanation for this feeling of downhill spiral of science fiction is pretty optimistic, because culture can change very fast. What was cool 5 years ago is often not cool anymore today. So if the issue is with authors and their intentions, this can change really fast, and we can see a resurgence of the good old science fiction that we all know and love. Science is not the same. This third reason is slightly more depressing. The idea here is that maybe science fiction back then was more exciting because science was more exciting. There was more to uncover, more to discover, and more to fantasize about. And so it seems that modern science fiction is on a decline because there's just not as much to talk about. Maybe we've discovered too much. Maybe we've explored all the thought experiments that there could be about AI, the nature of self and everything. Philip K. Dick, Asimov, Clarke, Heinlein, you name them. They all explored all the most exciting ideas in the genre in general, and there's just not much left. Still, this is not as depressing as it may be. I personally don't believe that this is the case. I think there will be new science, there will be new discoveries. You know, if you go back in history, I think it's something like 16th century or whatever, don't quote me on the exact date, physicists thought, well, we've discovered everything, and chemists were also kind of hitting a wall. So I am optimistic that we haven't learned everything there was to learn about the universe, and there's definitely a lot of stuff to fantasize about. So I personally don't think that the third reason is the strongest, but it could be part of it, especially if authors believe that the third reason is valid, and so they get depressed. And now we get back to reason 2, informed by reason 3. Now the time comes for the last and the most depressing explanation. And it is that science fiction didn't change. You have changed. We have grown older. We will never again relive the same excitement of thinking for the first time how it would be to travel to the stars. What would happen if artificial intelligence became sentient? What would it be to lose your memories and have to regain them? What it would mean to question reality. All the awesome concepts in science fiction, you will never experience them again for the first time. And so there's never going to be the same thrill that you felt that long time ago. I personally don't think it's that bad, although maybe I'm just too young to fully immerse myself in the depressive nature of things. But I have read new science fiction that rekindled some of that excitement of reading cool ideas for the first time. And by the way, if you're looking for a book that takes risks and tries to do something new while also respecting the traditions of the genre, well, allow me this non-humble self-insert. In my book, Case Study, I tried to do exactly that. Whether I succeeded, you'll be the judge. It's a book about a world of absolute empathy. As in, if I punch you, I get a bruise. If I step on an ant, I might myself get crippled or even die. But the main character stumbles upon a way to get rid of hyper-empathy completely. I aim to release the book in July and it will be available on Amazon, on Audible and whatnot. But my first 1,000 Patreon subscribers, even free ones, can request the book in advance before it officially releases. And I'm gonna send you the PDF for free. So think about it and have a good day.